Hey, what's going on, everybody? Samuel Akem here, and I'm back with another one. Thank you guys for tapping in today. We got a great video for today. I appreciate you guys for tapping into my channel. Got some great topics to attack for you today. Clifton Mcdowell has transferred from Montana. We are going to talk about that. First subject we're going to talk about being successful in the Big Sky Conference. Look at how schools can do that. What will it take for a Big Sky school to get over the hump and win the national championship? We are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Clemson suing the ACC, as well as Florida State. They're now the second ACC school to sue the conference. We are going to discuss that. The annual payouts for each conference with the new college football playoff contract that is signed through 2031. So we will look at that. Caden Proctor transferring away from the school, transferring back. We might actually talk about that in conjunction with the Clifton topic because they're both very similar. Few different situations, a little bit different situations, but we're going to talk about that. Caitlin Clark's comments on the tournament, we will talk about that. Jim Harbaugh's comments on JJ McCarthy, we will talk about that. And then the NFL just banned the hip drop tackle. We will discuss that. Thank you guys for tapping in. If you're watching right now, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, leaving your thoughts on how you like this video, how you enjoy this content. I appreciate you guys for tapping in, and we will get straight into the video. Okay, so first things first, former Montana quarterback, now former Temple quarterback, Clifton McDowell entered the transfer portal this morning, Monday. What is the date today? It's today the 25th, Monday, March 25th. Clifton McDowell entered the transfer portal, entered his name back into the transfer portal. He's transferred. He's now back into the portal. We don't know where he's going to end up. I hope he ends up somewhere, but this is why some of these kids, some of these athletes need the right type of people in their corner, because Clifton played a great season last year, led the Grizz to the national championship. Obviously, they came up short. He was a little banged up during that game, but they made it to the national championship. I think everybody thought that if we can maintain most of our talent, we're losing some good seniors. Alex Gubner, our linebacking core is gone. I don't know if we lost a few O-linemen, but they lost a few pieces. But a lot of people were looking at the team, looking at the roster and saying, if we can maintain Junior, Aaron, Keelan, like all the receivers, if we can maintain all of our defensive pieces, offensive pieces, we should be pretty good next year, as well as Clifton. You know, I think Clifton had some gaps in his game. His throwing accuracy was off at times. His deep ball was off at times, but for the most part, he was able to get the job done. He was really instrumental with being able to use his legs and using his legs to extend the pass game. You saw that a lot last year. I think that's one of the best part of his games and the best things that helped our offense, because our offensive line was good, but I wouldn't say they were the best offensive line. I mean, nobody would say they were the best offensive line. Our line was good enough, and that's not to crap on these guys, but you watched the film and you saw some deficiencies in the offensive line play. But where Clifton was able to make the team better was he was able to move. He was mobile, and he could get out of the pocket to extend plays because we have really good receivers. If you're able to get out of the pocket and find these guys down the field, there'll be big plays, and we saw that last year. So I think a lot of people were looking at the team and seeing Clifton, seeing how well he played, seeing how well the team did under him, and thinking, wow, like, we should be able to be pretty good next year, and it's not seeming like that's going to be the case now. I think this is just further highlighting the transfer portal and some of the issues that exist with the transfer portal. These kids being able to jump in and out of the portal, these kids being able to transfer from school to school to school. I think it may seem like it benefits them in the interim, but in the long term, it's really hurting these kids in the long run. I mean, I said I wanted to talk about the Clifton situation. That's what we're talking about right now. But Caden Proctor, one of my later topics that I'm just going to push to the front right now. Caden Proctor transferred from Alabama following the national semifinals game in the college football playoff. He transferred to Iowa, which I believe is where he's from. I believe he's from the Iowa area. He transferred to Iowa. They had raised about $100,000 for him to get him to Iowa. And, you know, he had been there for the semester. Now, I don't know if he had actually been taking classes or what it had been. I mean, we're in March now, so he must have been taking classes and probably was about to start spring ball. Well, either during the beginning of spring ball or before spring ball had started, he entered back into the transfer portal and transferred back to Alabama. Now, there was a lot of speculation from people saying that, you know, he just collected their money and went back to Alabama. I have saw from a lot of sources that he actually didn't get paid that much money. I think their collective actually came out and said, we actually didn't pay Caden Proctor that much money. I think the collective actually didn't pay him any money. They raised the money for him, and I think he was going to do activities in order to receive that money, but it never reached that point. He was only there for like 2 months. So he received, I think, a small amount of money from doing little things around, you know, Iowa and for NIL, but he didn't make a bulk of the money that he was supposed to be making, that he was going to make. And I don't think he made a bulk of the money from the collective. I think he made it from other companies around Iowa or wherever it may be, but he made a little bit of money, but not what people think he was going to make that season. Either way, It just highlights the issues that exist with the transfer portal. Guys being able to jump in and jump out, guys being able to commit to a university, say I'm going to be here for this amount of time, and then as soon as things don't work out or as soon as another situation pops up, he's back in the transfer portal. Now the thing with Caden Proctor is very interesting because I'm almost positive this guy was a 5-star. I'm pretty sure he started all last season. I'm pretty sure he had a really good season as well, and I'm pretty sure he's slotted to be a future first round pick or a future high draft pick. Now my thing is like, obviously, Saban left, so that's a reason for a lot of these kids to leave, and I think that's probably why Caden Proctor left, is because a lot of these kids are probably there for Saban. So once Saban is gone, it's like, what reason do we have to be here? You have that. But you're at Alabama. I mean, it's not going to get much better than that, no matter if Saban's there or not. You guys have all the resources. You guys have all the facilities. You guys have everything at your disposal. So I don't know. I mean, you'd have to talk to him to understand why he transferred, but I think it just highlights some of the issues. I mean, take NIL out of it, just the transfer portal in general. Guys being able to jump, not show no loyalty, not have to have any loyalty, not have to have any true commitment to a team. It just kind of hurts the universities and it hurts these kids as well. Like taking it back to the Clifton situation. Clifton left Montana, but this is like Temple was like Clifton's 4th or 5th school. So I believe he was at a JUCO originally out of high school, went to University of Central Arkansas. Then I believe he transferred from UCA to Montana, if I'm correct. After Montana, he then went to Temple. So that being his 4th school. If he ends up at another school following Temple, that'll be his 5th school. I think as a university, as a coaching staff, you look at that and you think, well, you know, this guy hasn't really shown loyalty to anybody. He's really bounced around a lot of places. He hasn't been willing to work for a position. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. And that's not to crap on Clifton. I've mentioned on multiple occasions how much I felt like Clifton helped the University of Montana excel past season and how much I think he took them to the next level. But when you're speaking about something, you have to speak honestly about it. And, you know, from an optics standpoint, you transferring multiple times throughout your college career does not look good. And, you know, I think Caden Proctor's situation is a little different, but the reason I wanted to talk about them both at the same time is because they're very similar. Guys transferring from one school and a couple months later transferring to another school. That is one of the things that I think needs to be fixed within the transfer portal rules. I wish Clifton all the best. All the best. I'm not saying any of this. This is just me having to report on this because this is what happened. You play at the University of Montana. You did transfer, and now we're seeing that you're transferring again. I hope it all works out for you, but I think these are some of the issues that exist with the transfer portal. You guys let me know what you think about the Clifton situation, what you guys think about the Caden Proctor situation. Do you guys think they're similar? What do you guys think can be done about it? You guys let me know in the comments, and we will move on. Okay, so next I want to talk about the key to being successful in the Big Sky Conference. And we'll kind of take these in conjunction because I think they both go hand in hand. But what will it take for a team in the Big Sky to get over the hump? What will it take for a team in the Big Sky Conference to be successful long term, to be successful in the big game, in the national championship, to get over the hump? Personally, I think it all starts with upfront play, offensive line and defensive line play. I think Montana had good, for defensively, I'm going to say front seven because Montana runs a 3-3-5. So it's D-line and linebackers that will stop the run. It's D-line and linebackers for any defense. They're front seven. You have to be able to be successful in the front seven. Your D-line has to be dominant. Your offensive line has to be dominant. Your run game has to be very good. And your passing game has to be very good. One thing I think that Montana State has done a really, really, really good job of over the years is they prioritize the offensive line first because they're going to run the ball so successfully. I think we've watched them average like 300 rushing yards a game every season. You know, they are going to be successful in the run game and they are going to therefore prioritize the offensive line. They just lost 3 offensive linemen to, I think, all FBS Power 5 schools following the finish of the 2023 season. And, you know, that was the best part of their team. Besides the quarterback position with Sean Chambers and Tommy Mellott, their offensive line was probably the best part of their team. For any team to win the national championship, you look at North Dakota State, you look at South Dakota State. What do they have year in and year out? Good front seven play on the defense and good offensive line play on the offense. I mean, South Dakota State had 3 offensive linemen who are most likely going to play 5, 10 plus years in the NFL. So, I mean, that just shows you right there how having good offensive line play can lead to massive success. So I think Montana State has part of the blueprint. They went to the national championship in 2021. They had a really good run game, but I think the thing that helped Montana State in 2021 was that they had a really good pass game as well. You have to marry them together. And I might be speaking obviously on what it takes to win a national championship, but this is just something that I think about a lot. And we always see the Missouri Valley teams end up on top. We always see the Missouri Valley teams end up on top, or the Sam Houston in 2020, but most likely it's going to be a Missouri Valley team end up with that national championship. What will it take for a Big Sky team to do that? Front seven. And what I was saying about Montana State, the thing that helped them out in 2021 was they've always had a good run game. They've always been able to affect the game in the run game. But when they added that pass component, they've always had a decent pass game, but I don't think it's been super successful. When they had Lance McCutcheon in 2021 and he was beating guys over the top, catching 50-50 balls, taking things to the house, that is when their team, I think, took the next step, because they're always going to be able to run the ball. Tommy Mellott is always going to be able to find a way to affect the game in the run game through the read option, through the scramble, with his running backs. Some way, the game is always going to be successful for Montana in the run game. It becomes an issue with them when they aren't able to pass the ball, and that's what we saw against Montana in Cat Grizz in 2023. Montana State, I think, they were running the ball okay. They weren't really having a lot of success offensively at all. So it's probably a bad example. But a lot of times when you look to stop Montana State, you do everything you can to stop the run, make them beat you with the pass. And in 2021, you do that, and they were going to beat you with the pass. So that's why they were successful. This is what I think it's going to take for Montana State or for any Big Sky team to get over the hump. You got to have good offensive line play, and you got to marry it with the pass game. Now, the reason I think Montana State didn't at least come close to winning or win the game in 2021 was because Tommy Mellott got hurt. Best player on their team throughout that playoff run. I'd probably say Lance McCutcheon is a close second. He had a really good he had a really good season. I don't know if his playoff run was as good. I think he had a pretty decent playoff run. But Tommy Mellott getting hurt in that game really hurt Montana State, and that was the whole reason why I think they got blown out that game. I think they would have been way more competitive if Tommy Mellott hadn't got hurt. I wish I could see that game with both teams healthy, but that's what it's going to take for the Big Sky. You guys let me know what you guys think. What are teams missing? I think, Big Sky teams have decent defensive back play for the most part. I think they got really good receivers in the Big Sky, really good skill positions in the Big Sky. It always comes down to the front seven on both, or the front lines on both sides of the ball, defensive and offensive line, So, in health, defensive, offensive line, and health. Those are the two things I mentioned with the Montana State team. You got to be able to run the ball successfully, stop the run successfully, and, you got to be healthy. I mean, it stands true for any team. So many teams probably could have won a national championship or been pretty successful had injuries not hampered them. There's probably teams that I've been on that could have been more successful had injuries not hurt us. But, it is what it is. That's what I think it will take for a Big Sky team to get over the hump. You guys let me know what you guys think in the comments. We are going to move on. And yeah, Clemson is suing the ACC, a move primarily aimed to improve athletics and football funding. Clemson has been a charter member of the ACC dating back to 1953, and now they are looking to get out of the ACC conference as well as Florida State. I got a few quotes for you, and I'm going to read those right now. Clemson sues ACC over grant of rights, withdrawal fee following FSU's lawsuit. Clemson has become the second ACC program after Florida State to file a lawsuit against the conference. Per Clemson's lawsuit, the school is suing the ACC over its grant of rights and the enforceability of withdrawal fees. So basically, let me read this one more quote. The ACC has publicly asserted that the ACC irrevocably owns the media rights of member institutions to home games played through 2036, even if the institution ceases to be a member of the conference. So basically, I think the penalty for Clemson leaving the ACC is around $572 million. And Clemson's basically trying to get out of paying that. They're trying to leave the ACC. I think some of the things that they've cited is the ACC's TV deal is not as favorable as, say, that of the SEC, say that of the Big Ten, say that of the Big 12. So they are trying to get out of the ACC and get into another conference. The next question for me becomes, what Power 5, Power 4 conference does Clemson FSU join? Do they join the SEC? Do they join the Big Ten? Is college football just going to become a big two-division AFC, NFC type format where it's the Big Ten and the SEC and then it's everybody else in another division? And that's where it seems like we're heading because, I mean, does Clemson go to the Big 12? I mean, I think I could see them in the Big 12. I think the Big 12, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, the Big 12 is probably most fitting of Clemson off of all the Power 4 conferences, SEC, ACC, or Big 10. But if they're trying to get out of the ACC, something that's very interesting, as well as Florida State. The ACC also claimed that member institutions must pay an exorbitant $140 million penalty to leave the conference, and that members owe the conference fiduciary duties, specifically with respect to obligations created by their grant of media rights to the conference. So, I think that means, I know that fiduciary responsibilities means that Clemson has the responsibility to do what's in the best interest of the ACC. And Clemson is basically arguing that we don't have to do what's in the best right of the ACC. We in the best, do what's best for the ACC. We have the responsibility to do what's best for us, and that is what we are going to do, and that's why we are filing this lawsuit, so that we can do what is best for us. Clemson seeking a declaration that the media rights Clemson granted to the ACC do not include any Clemson games that are played after Clemson ceases to be a member of the ACC. Clemson is not required to pay the ACC the withdrawal penalty, and such a payment is an unenforceable penalty in violation of public policy. And number 3, Clemson owes no fiduciary duties to the ACC or its other members and has breached no legal duty or obligation it might owe to the ACC by filing this lawsuit. You can say what you want about this lawsuit, but I think the ACC is definitely under attack by Florida State and Clemson. It'll be interesting to see if any other teams are looking to get out of the ACC and get out of paying these penalties. But the $572 million definitely does seem like a steep penalty to get out of a conference. They cited some of the other, I didn't put these in my notes, but they cited some of the other fees that, other teams have to pay to get out of their conference, and they seemed way less. The SEC, Big 12, Big 10, they all seemed like, I don't even think the Big 10 had a fee. I think the SEC was maybe around 5 to 10 million. I think the Big 10 was probably, or Big 12 was probably around 5 to 10 million. But then you have Clemson paying a $570 million to get out of the ACC conference. That does seem a little unconscionable and unenforceable, as Clemson put it. But they're looking to get out of the ACC. Where do they go from here? I think Notre Dame is going to be a school that's looking to join a conference next. I would guess that they probably join the ACC. But if Clemson and Florida State, two of the flagship conferences of the ACC, are trying to get out, what does that do for Notre Dame looking for a conference? Do they go Big 10? They are right there in Indiana. They could easily go Big 10. Do they go Big 12? I mean, there's a lot, like I say every week, there's a lot of changes going on in college football. Everybody's trying to get a bigger piece of the pie. That's what Clemson and Florida State are doing. And it's all about money. That's what we've been seeing lately. And that's what it all has done. Clemson and other ACC schools have fallen behind rival SEC and Big Ten schools in terms of their conference payouts, which are distributed by school and help support athletic departments, revenue-generating football teams, and other sports, as those conferences have signed new television deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So like I just said, it's all about money. ACC is like, oh, look what the SEC is getting. Oh, look what the Big Ten is getting. Why can't we get something like that? And they want to probably most likely join the SEC or the Big Ten so they can get a piece of that pie. But the thing that strikes me is like those Big Ten and SEC schools are getting that big piece of a pie because of, the members that are already a part of the conference. You joining that conference will cut that pie down for everybody else. So I don't know if a lot of conferences are actually looking to add Clemson to them because, like I said, it's all about money. And when you add somebody, that brings less money to everybody. So I think this is a very interesting development in college football. I think it's something that people need to be tapped into. But, man, college football is changing every week, and I don't even know what to think about it anymore. As detailed below, collegiate athletics is at a crossroads. Without clarity as to its legal rights and obligations, Clemson cannot protect and advance its interests. So basically, Clemson's trying to get clarity on what we are charged with paying and what we aren't charged with paying, and what our legal rights are and are not, and how we can move forward to look for proper compensation and proper conference affiliation so that we can be a happy institution. You guys let me know in the comments. Well, actually, I already asked these questions, but what conference do FSU and Clemson join? What do you guys think? What conference do you guys think would be most fitting for them if they are to get out of the ACC? And then what does this mean for the ACC? What does this mean for the future of the ACC? What do you guys think it means for the future of the ACC? You guys let me know in the comments, and we are going to move on. Other than head coach or coordinator, what is the hardest position in football to coach and why? Now, this question is from Coach Kenny Simpson, who is FB Coach Simpson on Twitter or X, however you call it. I've never coached, but I would have to guess that offensive line play is probably the hardest position to coach because of all the technical differences, all the small things that you got to get right. I mean, your hands have to be perfect. You got to learn, fronts. You have to learn linebacker sets. You got to learn a lot of things as an offensive lineman. You got to have great communication. Communication is really big on the offensive line. If your offensive line is not good at communicating, you're probably not going to have a good offensive line, because, the defensive line, the linebackers, they're always moving around trying to confuse the offensive line. You got to be able to communicate to know who's got who's free. The quarterback has to know that as well. The quarterback has to be able to communicate that with the offensive line, and the offensive line has to be able to. So, I think it can get the rap for, a position that's fairly easier just because, you're big, you're strong, you should be able to block that guy. But as a coach, also as a coach, a lot of times, and at least in my experience, I've seen a lot of line coaches and people who coach the line who aren't very big. So, I don't think they played offensive line in their past, but they know the technique. You got to know the technique. You got to know what wins. You got to know what loses. And, that's what I think separates some of the better offensive line coaches from the regular offensive line coaches. You got to be able to properly explain these techniques and how they work to your players. You got to be able to properly show them how these technique works properly. Everything. There's so many things about offensive line play that, can make it good or bad. But the number one thing I think that makes offensive line play is cohesion. You need cohesion. Cohesion is more important for the offensive line than it is for any other position on the field. If those five guys aren't working together, if those five guys aren't communicating together, if those five guys aren't on the same page, it's going to create a lot of trouble for everybody else on the field, because it starts up front. That is why it's the hardest position to coach, because they're the first line of defense. They're not, as a receiver, you might have a couple steps before you're getting into the DB space. As a running back, you might have a couple of steps before you're, encountering another player. But as a lineman, they're right in your face, right there. Like, I got to be ready to make a decision on a split notice. I got to be able to get this guy out of the way in a couple seconds so that my running back can run behind me. Like, things have to happen like that. And that's how football is. Things happen like that. But it's like with the offensive line and with the defensive line right there, with linebackers right there, blitzing linebackers, blitzing DBs, like, you got to be ready just like that. And that's why I think, coaching the offensive line is tough, because is the toughest position, because it takes a lot of physicality and savviness, communication, cohesion. All of these things are so big for offensive line play. And that's not something that can just be taught. Like, it's something that has to be repped. The cohesion, the communication, things like that have to be repped. And, I don't think it's an easy thing to do as a coach. That's why, if offensive line was easy to coach, you'd see a bunch of good offensive lines in the country. And this is probably going to be my most important point about this, and why I think offensive line play is so hard to coach. If offensive line was so easy to coach, you'd see a bunch of good offensive line. You see good receivers everywhere. You see good running backs everywhere. You see good DBs everywhere. I think offensive line play is way more indicative of, there's good offense. You have to have good offensive line to have a good offensive line. You have to have good offensive line players to have a good offensive line. But I think offensive line play is way more indicative of good coaching than any other position on the field, because you have to coach every position not so much differently, but every position has its own role, just like every position on the field. But on the offensive line, every position has its own role, but all those roles have to work together. Just like every position on the field in football. I keep saying this, but cohesion is so big on the offensive line. If you don't have it, it'll ruin your offensive line. If you have it, it'll make your offensive line great. That's my final point. What do you guys think is the hardest position to coach in football? You guys let me know in the comments, and I will move on. Now we are going to discuss total annual payout from the college football playoff per team per year under the newly signed 2026 through 2031 extension. The SEC will be getting $23.6 million. The Big Ten will be getting $20.9 million. The ACC will be getting $13.1 million. Notre Dame will be getting $12.5 million plus $6 million if they qualify for the playoff. The Big 12 will get $11.9 million, and the group of fives will get $1.8 million. Oregon State, Washington State, and UConn will get $360,000 plus $6 million if they qualify. So it seems like the most of the pie is going towards the SEC, Big Ten, and ACC. But I think this relates to the G5 comment that we made the other day. If they qualify, they get $1.8 million. And I think that's it. They don't get anything extra if they qualify. And I think that's why, Sam Herder wrote the article about, G5s getting weeded out. You see how much money everybody else is getting. The Big 12 is getting 11.9 million and the G5s are getting 1.8 million. That's 10 million less than the next conference. And obviously you can say the G5s are probably bringing in less money, and this is what it's all about. It's all about money. We keep continuing to talk about money, and we'll always talk about money. The college football playoff is a for-profit organization. They do not work for the NCAA. They work with the NCAA. So they do not need to worry about, they're not a nonprofit organization. They are working to make money. So that's ultimately what they're going to do. And then when you look at how some of these payouts are based, to me, it basically seems like it's based on, the want for each conference, the popularity of each conference, the revenue that each conference can bring. SEC is king in football and college football, 23.6 million. The Big Ten is probably next up at 20.9 million. The ACC is probably, I would honestly debate the ACC and Big 12. They're very close, 11.9 for the Big 12 and 13.1 for the ACC. So that's kind of fair for me. And then Notre Dame getting 12.5. The one thing that's crazy about this, and the one thing that makes it tough for some of these institutions, is like, all of this money is going to each institution individually under the newly signed deal, which is run through 26 through 31. This definitely helps like with recruiting. This definitely helps with like facilities. So I think the one thing these payouts incentivize is like, it would benefit you to get your conference better so that you can bring in more money. But it's like, I don't know if the people over top have a lot of control over that, of like how good their conference is. Like, we can't control how good these coaches are recruiting. We can't control how, what players want to play for our institutions. We can just control what institutions we have under our umbrella. After that, we can't control anything else. So I don't really know what these payouts, like the significance. I think the significance of the 1.8 million for the G5s, it just shows that these G5s aren't getting much. So you're not going to benefit much from being in the college football playoff. So you might as well drop down. I think that's what Sam Herder was talking about. These G5s aren't going to get much from the college football playoff, and the college football playoff has showed that over and over and over and over again. So it would benefit the G5s to merge with the FCS, to play their own championship. I would love to watch that. There's amazing G5 schools, and I love the FCS. And I think if they came together in one joint division, I think it could be amazing. It could continue to be D1AA, but it'd just be a bigger division, or who knows. But these payouts are interesting. Oregon State, Washington State, UConn getting basically nothing, and they only get a real bulk of their money if they qualify. Notre Dame getting 12.5, so that's kind of in line with most of the ACC or Big 12 schools. So you guys let me know what you guys think about these payouts in the comments, and we will move on. Caitlin Clark's comments on people's excitement for the tournament. This is something I wanted to talk about a lot. I saw this a couple days ago. I think I actually saw this yesterday on Sunday, and I wanted to talk about it today. Caitlin Clark mentioned how she said, people are more excited about the women's side than the men's side. And I think that's obviously something that's really never been the case before. That's what Caitlin Clark said on this year's March Madness, and I would agree. Obviously, we're going to see clips of the men's side of the tournament always, because there's always exciting things happening. People are gambling a bunch on the game, so people are tapped in. But I think it speaks volumes that the biggest star in the women's game right now mentioned this and said that, people are more excited about the women's side than the men's side. And I would agree with that, because I am somebody who's been saying this for a couple weeks now. I think people are way more excited about women's college basketball than they are men's college basketball. One thing I think the reason people are more excited, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, is because there's more stars in the women's game. We know these women. Cameron Brink. Actually, I just saw a clip of Cameron Brink last night telling that she fouled out of the game. They were playing, I can't remember who they were playing, but it was a really close game. She fouled out in the fourth quarter, and she was walking by the ref, and she said, F you to the ref. And so everybody had their opinions about that on Twitter. Oh, if this was Angel Reese, this would have happened. Oh, this in a close game, she can't do that. They could have teed her up. All these things, which are all true. But we're talking about it. Caitlin Clark, we're talking about Angel Reese, Kim Mulkey, we're talking about them. Dawn Staley, South Carolina, we're talking about them. And, obviously we're going to talk about the men's side because March Madness is exciting. So that's going to be a topic of discussion. But I think the more exciting conversations that are taking place are about the women's game. What happens if Iowa State and LSU meet each other again? What happens if Iowa State and South Carolina meet each other again? What happens if South Carolina and LSU meet each other again? Wherever that could be. be if they meet each other down the line during this tournament in the Natty and the semifinals. Like, what happens if all these, like, because there's so many storylines going on. You got Kim Mulkey talking about the article in the Washington Post that's about to come out about her. You got Caitlin Clark trying to, win her first national championship, redeem what happened last year, avenge what happened last year, her losing, I believe it was in the national championship game. And then, you got Cam Brink, what happened with her in Stanford last night. I mean, there's so many great storylines on the women's side, a lot of great storylines on the men's side. But I just wanted to bring this up because this, confirmed what I had said. I was right that the women's game is way more exciting than the men's game right now, and people are definitely tapped into the women's game more than the men's game right now. So you guys let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. I appreciate you guys, but let me know what you guys think about in the comments about what I said, and I will move on. Jim Harbaugh says JJ McCarthy's pro day was the best, in quotes, best he's ever seen. Now, if I was a college coach and if I was his college coach and I was now an NFL coach, I would definitely do this. And I think this is Jim Harbaugh basically just trying to raise JJ McCarthy's draft stock. Like, I'm in the NFL now. I could potentially get him, but I also have the power to be able to raise his stock, to be able to speak about him because I'm in the NFL, because I won a national championship. Now, people may take this with a grain of salt because he was his coach, like he's his most recent coach. So yeah, sure, you're supposed to say that. You're gonna say that. But also, I mean, he's an NFL coach now, so that what he says holds a little weight. And people obviously can watch the pro day for themselves and formulate their own opinion about it. But Jim Harbaugh is trying to, regardless if he ends up on the Chargers or not, he's trying to raise his own players' draft stock. And I mean, who wouldn't do that? I mean, all college coaches try to do that. But now that I have this NFL, I mean, he had NFL pedigree before. He coached in the NFL. He went to the Super Bowl as an NFL head coach. He obviously came up short, but he just won a national championship. He's back in the NFL. I think he has some standing as a head coach. I think people care about what he says. He's coached quarterbacks, I think, for most of his career. So I think he has a lot of standing with what he says. And people are now I think this is him just trying to pump that stock up like, oh man, that was the best pro day I've ever seen. I've never seen anybody throw it like JJ McCarthy. Have you seen anybody like him? Like, I think he's just trying to pump it up and, trying to make it look better, trying to make JJ's stock go up, but also trying to, influence the program of Michigan. Like, look how we developed him. Trying to, I just think him doing that looks nothing but good for him and his program and the University of Michigan. So that's just something that I saw that I wanted to comment on because I thought it was very indicative of somebody who's trying to, inflate a player's stock, fairly or unfairly. I think he's trying to inflate JJ's stock, and we'll see how it works. I think he's getting a lot of buzz lately. I think it'd be interesting to see where he ends up in the draft. Where do you guys think he'll end up in the draft? And what do you guys think What do you guys think Jim Harbaugh's plan with saying that was? Do you think he's trying to, hype his player up for the scouts and for the NFL GMs, or do you think he's just genuinely speaking? I think, I honestly haven't even seen it, but I'm sure it's probably not who knows? It could be the best he's ever seen. Who the hell am I to say what's the best he's ever seen? So it might be the best he's ever seen, but I think he's also engaging in a little hyperbole, to pump his player up. So you guys let me know what you guys think about it in the comments, and we will move on. The NFL has officially banned the hip drop tackle, and it will be a fine and a 15-yard penalty with an automatic first down going forward. Now, I don't think this is a 1-year put in because the NFL new kickoff rule is a 1-year put in rule that they're just putting in for the year to see how it works. I think this NFL hip drop tackle ban is in for the foreseeable future until they come back to the table to discuss if it's right or not. I don't think there's a time limit on this. Either way, this is crazy. I think this is crazy. I'm an offensive guy first, so I'm always gonna, advocate for safety and of the offensive players. But I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when they first brought it up. This is very, very gray area for me. As an offensive player, your job is to get as much yardage as you can. Your job is to go forward. If I have that ball in my hands, I'm going forward to try to get as many yards as I can. As a defender, my job is to stop you from getting as many yards as you can. My job is to stop you from getting a first down, from getting a touchdown, from catching that ball, my job is to stop you. That's why I'm called a defender, because I'm defending my goal line. Now, with that being said, now that they put this rule in, it makes it so hard for a defender to tackle because, like I said a couple weeks ago, in these situations, a defender is not thinking about, let me hip drop this tackle so I can hurt his ankle, hurt his leg, so I can give this guy an injury. The defender is thinking, I need to stop this guy or I'm going to lose my job. I need to stop this guy or I can't eat this week. I need to stop this guy or else my family can't eat this week. That's what these guys are thinking of. And that's why I think it's so hard to judge these penalties, because it is so gray area, I feel like I don't think any defender was ever running up to an offensive player to tackle him and thinking, I'm going to hit drop this tackle. I think a defender is running up to an offensive guy saying, I need to get this guy on the ground. I don't care what it looks like. I need to get this guy on the ground. Now, obviously, there's techniques that they teach and there's ways that they teach to tackle, but there's certain angles and positions that you can be in as a defender that those tackle techniques just aren't possible. When you're trailing a guy, when you're chasing after a guy, he's turning around the corner. You're chasing after him. You grab him. You're just going to drop your weight. And now that's what they're trying to take out of the game. I think the numbers show that leads to a lot of injuries, but it's hard being in that position to make that play. They have a video. They dropped the video of the example of what some of these tackles are. And I'm going to pull it up and we're going to talk about it. Okay. So here are some of the clips that they use to explain the hip drop tackle. This one's definitely wild. I thought this one was definitely kind of wild. I mean, he just straight dropped his weight on bro's legs. Like, that's the one they're trying to take out of the game. But there's some of these that they showed in the cut, like right there. That's what I'm talking about. Like, you're trailing the defender. You're trailing Tony Pollard right here. Obviously, he ended up, I think this is the one where he ended up hurting his ankle, was out for the year. Or this was a playoff game, I believe. But still, yeah, this was the divisional round. But this is the one that ended up breaking his ankle. But, I mean, look at the defender. He's trailing him, trying to get him down. How else would you suggest that these guys get these players down? How else would you suggest that they get these guys down? I mean, I don't really know. I think it's hard for the defenders. I think it's definitely, and that's the thing, I'm kind of split with this rule because I think it's definitely an injury risk. I think a lot of players do get injured with this tackle, but I think it's something that's going to be hard for a defender not to do. Like, look, trying to get the defender down, just any way possible. How else would, as somebody judging this, as a ref, how would you suggest he gets this player down right here? How would you suggest he gets this player down? Geno Smith on the sidelines. Like, I guess with this one, you can probably just push him out of bounds. Like, this was probably a penalty. You really didn't need to bring him down right here. So these are some of the tackles, like that first one by, I think it was Anthony Barr. And then this one, these are the ones that they're trying to get out of the game. And you can see why, because they're dropping their weight on these guys' legs, ankles. I think Tannehill actually got hurt from this one. I'm not sure. But, most of these end up being injuries. That's why I think it's so important. The NFL is always trying to make the game safer. And, by doing that, you have to monitor the game, monitor the injury risk of all of these plays and see, that's why the NFL kickoff got changed. And now they're trying to bring it back because they want to minimize injury risk, but we want the excitement in the game. So it's just tough, The NFL's in a tough position. They're trying to minimize the injuries, but they're also trying to, keep the excitement in the game. That's why they're trying to get the kickoff back. They're trying to minimize injuries. We want our best players on the field. This tackle has been shown to keep some of our best players off the field at times. We need to do something about that. So in doing that, they're taking this tackle out of the game and making it a 15-yard penalty. We'll probably see a lot of fines for this tackle this year. I know a lot of defensive guys. Richard Sherman has been very vocal about not liking this. J.J. Watt has been most people who are football purists, most people who have played the game or have been around the game for a long time are not happy about this rule. And I can't say I'm particularly super happy about it either. But I understand it. And this is what I told my friends. I'm kind of split on it because I understand, I think the tackle does pose a great injury risk. I mean, anytime you see somebody get tackled with that tackle, you're either thinking, oh, he's probably injured. Like, you cringe watching it because it looks painful. And I'm sure it's painful for the people. I actually got tackled this way by Kalen Saunders. He played for the Chiefs for a really long time. I can't remember who he plays for now, but this was when we were in college. He was at Western Illinois. We were playing them in 2018, and I caught an under route coming across the field, and I was about to turn up, and I feel somebody grab me. They fall on my leg, and, I think I had a high ankle sprain or something. But I remember, man, you asked the trainers, I was limping, and, I was in a bad way the next couple weeks, and I barely even played in that next game. I think I got like 6 or 7 snaps that next game because my ankle was in such a bad way. But so I've been victimized by this tackle personally, and I know how the effects of this tackle. I know what they can be: ACLs, ligament damage, broken bones, broken ankles, sprained knees, like All of it happens with this tackle. So that's what they're like, and that's what I'm saying. I'm split because I understand this tackle 100% poses an injury risk. But as a defender, what are you telling the defenders? How do you expect the defenders to tackle? How do you expect guys in the Super Bowl, in the AFC Champion, in the divisional round? How do you expect guys to get some of these guys down on some of these plays where it's like, I got to get this guy down or we're going to lose? Like, and that's what I think it comes down to with a lot of these players is they're not thinking about how they're going to tackle him. They're thinking about tackling him. They're not thinking about, how many yards he's going to get. They're thinking about he's got too many yards already. Like, so I think it's hard for the defense. I think it's hard for these defensive players. I think it's hard for some of these coaches to coach it. I think it's hard for some of these defensive players to conform to it. But I think it's interesting. We'll see how it goes going forward. And you guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about it. I'm sure a lot of you guys will not like this rule. I'm sure there's already a lot of people speaking down on it. A lot of people, the NFLPA didn't want it to go through, and I'm sure a bunch of fans and people who pay attention to the game didn't want it to go through as well. You guys let me know in the comments what you think about the hip drop tackle. Do you think it should be a fine? Do you think it should be a penalty, or do you think they're splitting hairs now? You guys let me know, and we will move on. Okay. A little shorter video today. I actually didn't get any questions, which is okay. Maybe next week we'll get some questions, but I thank you guys for tapping into the channel. I appreciate you guys for paying attention to the content. Let me know what you guys want to see next. I got a breakdown dropping on Thursday, so make sure you guys tap into that, and I will see you guys next time. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. Thank you guys so much. I'll catch you guys next week.